My family forced me out of the house after my sister falsely accused me of stealing her engagement ring. 3 years later, they found the ring in the garbage disposal. I never thought I would be telling this story, but here it is. My name is Elliot. I'm 26 years old, and 3 years ago, my life was completely turned upside down by a false accusation made by my older sister, Gemma, who was 29 at the time. I grew up in a small town in Ohio with my parents, John, 55, and Lisa, 53, along with my sister Gemma. We lived in a modest two-story house that my parents had bought when they first got married. It wasn't luxurious, but it was our home. My father worked as a high school math teacher, and my mother was a nurse at the local hospital. They weren't wealthy, but they always made sure we had everything we needed. When we were kids, Gemma and I were very close. We spent hours playing in the backyard, climbing an old oak tree, and creating elaborate games. Gemma usually took the lead, making up the rules and storylines, while I was happy just following along. However, as we grew older, things slowly began to change. Gemma was always a high achiever. She graduated at the top of her class, became captain of the debate team, and seemed to succeed in everything she attempted. I was different. I was more relaxed about things. I did fine in school, but I never had the same level of drive that Gemma did. As we moved into our teenage years, this difference slowly created distance between us. By the time Gemma left for college, our relationship had already started to drift apart. She attended a prestigious university on a scholarship, while I stayed in town and enrolled at a community college. At that time, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life, so I took different classes, hoping to eventually figure things out. After graduating, Gemma moved to the city and began working at a large marketing agency. She would come home during holidays or occasional weekends, often sharing stories about her exciting job and busy life. Listening to those stories sometimes made me feel inadequate. Meanwhile, I was still living at home, working part-time at a local grocery store, and trying to decide what direction my life should take. Even with all those differences, I always believed that Gemma and I were still on good terms. We weren't as close as we had been in childhood, but I assumed that was simply part of growing up. I had no idea how quickly everything could fall apart. 3 years ago, Gemma got engaged to her boyfriend, Tom, who was 31. They had been together for 2 years, and everyone was thrilled about the news. Tom was a lawyer from a wealthy family, and my parents admired him a lot. He proposed with a beautiful diamond ring that had been passed down through his family for generations. Gemma was incredibly happy and showed the ring to everyone she could. The engagement celebration was a big event. My parents invited what felt like half the town to our house to celebrate. I remember feeling slightly out of place among many of the wealthy guests that Gemma and Tom had brought from the city. I mostly stayed close to my old high school friends who were still living in town. Being around them felt more comfortable than trying to fit in with Gemma's sophisticated group. About a month after the engagement, everything changed. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I had the day off from work. I was in my room playing video games, enjoying the quiet house. Gemma was staying with us for a week while she and my mom started planning the wedding. I heard Gemma and my mom return from a shopping trip. They were talking and laughing downstairs. I didn't pay much attention and continued playing my game. About an hour later, I suddenly heard Gemma scream. I rushed downstairs to see what had happened. She immediately accused me of stealing her engagement ring. Gemma explained that she had taken the ring off while washing dishes and placed it on the kitchen counter. When she came back later to pick it up, it was gone. I was shocked and quickly denied taking it. But Gemma refused to listen. She kept yelling that I was the only other person in the house, so it had to be me. She started saying that I had always been jealous of her success and probably wanted to sell the ring so I could finally move out and do something with my life. Soon after, our parents came home and walked into the middle of the argument. Gemma immediately told them her version of the story. To my disbelief, they believed her without hesitation. My mother started crying, asking how I could do something like that to my own sister. My father looked at me with clear disappointment. They searched my room and turned everything upside down. They didn't find the ring, but they did find some money I had saved from my job at the supermarket. It wasn't a lot, just a few $100s. Gemma quickly pointed at it and claimed that I must have sold the ring and that the money was proof. I tried explaining that I had been saving for months because I was thinking about taking more classes at the local community college, but nobody listened. The next few days were a nightmare. My parents and Gemma kept pressuring me to confess and return the ring. They even threatened to call the police if I didn't admit what they believed I had done. I was scared and completely alone. No one in my family believed me, and I was treated like a criminal inside my own home. I tried reaching out to a few friends, but most of them had already moved away after high school. The few who were still in town didn't want to get involved in family problems. I felt more isolated than ever. After a week of constant accusations and threats, my parents made a decision that changed my life. They told me I had to leave. They said they couldn't trust me anymore and that I was bringing shame to the family. They gave me 2 days to pack my things and move out. I was devastated. I had nowhere to go and no real plan. My best friend from high school, Ryan, who was also 26, had recently come back to town after serving in the Army. He offered to let me stay on his couch for a while, but I knew I couldn't stay there forever. His apartment was small and he was still adjusting to civilian life. I packed what I could into a backpack and an old duffel bag. I took clothes, a few books, my laptop, and some small items that reminded me of better times. As I was leaving, I glanced up and saw Gemma watching from her old bedroom window. For a moment, I thought I noticed a hint of doubt in her expression, but she quickly turned away. Walking out of the only home I had ever known was one of the hardest things I have ever done. I felt betrayed and abandoned by the people who were supposed to care about me the most. The worst part was knowing that I had done nothing wrong. For the next 2 months, I moved between Ryan's couch and cheap motel rooms whenever I could afford them. I accepted any odd jobs that were available just to survive. I worked as a dishwasher, walked dogs, and even spent a few weeks helping on a construction site. It was difficult, but I was determined to build my life again and prove my innocence. Eventually, I managed to get a steady job at a warehouse on the edge of town. The work was demanding, and the hours were long, but the pay was reliable. It wasn't a high salary, but it allowed me to rent a small room in a shared house with several other warehouse workers. Slowly, I started rebuilding my life. But the pain of what happened never fully disappeared. Many nights, I lay awake replaying everything in my mind, wondering how things had gone so wrong. How could my family turn against me so quickly? How could Gemma, who had grown up beside me and knew me better than anyone, believe I was capable of stealing from her? I eventually cut off all contact with my family. They tried reaching out several times. At the beginning, my mother left emotional voicemails asking me to come home and fix things. My father sent a few short text messages saying we needed to talk. Gemma even came to the warehouse once, but I refused to meet her. After what had happened, I couldn't bring myself to face them. In my mind, they were no longer my family. For the next 3 years, that was my life. I made new friends at work and in the shared house where I lived. After our shifts, we would hang out, drink beer, and watch sports together. It wasn't the life I had imagined for myself, but it was mine. I had built it on my own. I worked hard and eventually earned a promotion to shift supervisor at the warehouse. At the same time, I began taking online classes to study business management. Slowly, I started figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. Still, a part of me remained hurt and angry about everything that had happened. I missed my old life and my family, but I couldn't forgive them for refusing to believe me. Holidays were especially difficult. When I saw families shopping together or heard Christmas music playing in stores, I felt a deep sadness about what I had lost. Then last week, something unexpected happened. I received an email from my father. The subject line simply read, "We need to talk." The message was short. He wrote that they needed to meet with me as soon as possible and that it was about the ring incident. At first, I considered ignoring it like I had ignored their previous attempts to contact me, but something made me pause. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe a small part of me still wanted some kind of closure. After thinking about it for several hours, I decided to hear what they had to say. I called my father, and what he told me left me stunned. They had found the ring. Apparently, Gemma had accidentally knocked it into the garbage disposal while washing dishes. She only realized this a few days earlier when the disposal started making strange noises and they called a plumber to check it. My father said Gemma was devastated when she understood what had happened and realized that I had been telling the truth all along. He told me they all felt terrible about what they had done and wanted to make things right. After the call ended, I felt a mix of emotions. On one hand, I felt vindicated. I had always told the truth, and now everyone knew it. But at the same time, I was furious. It had taken 3 years for the truth to come out. 3 years of being cut off from my family. 3 years of struggling alone, even though I had done nothing wrong. Now I found myself at a crossroads. My family wanted me to come back home. They said they wanted to repair the damage. Gemma had been calling and messaging me constantly asking for forgiveness, but I wasn't sure I could forgive them. They had pushed me out of the house without hesitation. They assumed the worst about me and left me to survive on my own for 3 years. Part of me wanted to reject them completely and let them live with the guilt of what they had done. But another part of me missed my old life and wondered if it was possible to rebuild what had been lost. I honestly didn't know what to do. Should I give them a chance to make things right, or should I continue living the life I had built without them? I felt torn and hoped for some outside perspective on the situation. Update 1. It has been a week since I shared my story, and a lot has happened since then. First, I want to thank everyone for the advice and support. Reading those responses helped me process my emotions and decide how to move forward. After a lot of thought, I decided to meet with my family. I felt that I owed it to myself to confront them and find some closure, even if reconciliation wasn't guaranteed. We agreed to meet at a neutral location, a small coffee shop in the next town. I chose it because it was far enough from our hometown that we wouldn't run into anyone we knew, but still close enough that everyone could get there easily. On the day of the meeting, I was extremely nervous. I hadn't seen my family in 3 years, and I had no idea what to expect. I arrived early and picked a table in the corner so we could talk privately. When they walked into the coffee shop, the moment hit me hard. Seeing them again after 3 years was overwhelming. My mother began crying as soon as she saw me. She looked older than I remembered, with more gray hair and deeper lines around her eyes. My father also seemed worn down. His shoulders were slumped, as if he had been carrying a heavy burden for a long time. Gemma couldn't look at me at first. She appeared smaller and less confident than the sister I remembered. We sat down together, and for a few moments, no one knew what to say. Then suddenly, they all started speaking at once, apologizing repeatedly. My parents said they had failed as parents by not trusting me and by forcing me to leave. They admitted they had regretted their decision every single day since it happened, but their pride and embarrassment had stopped them from reaching out sooner. My father, who had always been a quiet man, spoke for a long time about those events. He said he had replayed that week in his mind countless times, trying to understand how he could have been so wrong. He explained that he had always believed he was a fair and reasonable person, but in that moment his emotions had clouded his judgment. My mother, through tears, told me she had kept my room exactly the way I had left it, hoping that one day I would come back. She said there were nights when she woke up thinking she heard me walking through the house, only to remember what had happened. Then Gemma began crying. She said she would never forgive herself for accusing me and destroying our relationship. She explained that when we were younger, she had always admired me, even though I was the younger sibling. She admitted that. She explained that she had been so focused on her own life and problems that she lost sight of what truly mattered. As they spoke, memories from our childhood began coming back to me. I remembered how Gemma had defended me when I was bullied in middle school. I thought about the many times we had laughed together, shared secrets, and supported one another during difficult moments. Those memories made the betrayal feel even more painful. But they also reminded me of the good years we once shared. I listened to everything they said, but I still couldn't forgive them right away. The pain and resentment from the past 3 years were still too fresh. I told them I needed time to process everything. They seemed to understand and didn't pressure me further. Before we left, my mother tried to hug me, but I stepped back. I wasn't ready for that level of closeness yet. The hurt expression on her face almost made me change my mind, but I stayed firm. I needed to protect myself emotionally. After the meeting, I returned to my apartment and carefully thought about what I truly wanted. Did I want to return to my old life? Could I ever trust them again? Was it worth trying to repair our relationship? I realized that although I missed having a family, I had also grown a lot during the past 3 years. I had become independent, stronger, and capable of building a life on my own. I was no longer the same person they had forced out of the house years earlier. I thought about my warehouse job, my online studies, and the friends I had made along the way. I had worked hard to reach this point, and I was proud of what I had achieved on my own. The idea of abandoning that progress and returning to my old life didn't feel right. At the same time, I couldn't deny that seeing my family had stirred many emotions. Despite everything, I still loved them and missed them. I began to wonder if it might be possible to have a relationship with them while still maintaining my independence. After thinking about it for several days, I finally made a decision. I called my parents and explained that while I appreciated their apologies, I wasn't ready to fully reconcile. I told them that I needed more time and space to heal. I also set some clear boundaries. I said that I was willing to keep limited contact with them, but I would not move back home or pretend that nothing had happened. If we were going to rebuild any kind of relationship, it would have to happen on my terms. They sounded disappointed, but they said they understood. They promised to respect my boundaries and give me the time I needed. My mother asked if she could call me once a week just to check in, and I agreed. It seemed like a reasonable way to slowly rebuild some trust. As for Gemma, I decided to keep my distance for now. Her actions had affected me the most, and I wasn't ready to forgive her yet. I told her clearly that I needed more time before I could consider rebuilding our relationship. She was upset, but she said she understood and would wait until I was ready. The past week has been emotionally exhausting, with many ups and downs. At times, I question whether I'm being too strict or whether I'm missing a chance to fully reconnect with my family. But then I remember how quickly they turned against me, and it reminds me why taking things slowly is the right approach. I have also started looking into therapy options. Many people suggested it, and I think it would help to talk with a professional while I work through this situation. I have never been to therapy before, so I feel a little nervous, but I believe it could be helpful. For now, my main focus remains on my work and my studies. I have a large project coming up at the warehouse, and I don't want this family situation to distract me from my goals. I am also considering moving into a better apartment. I've been saving money, and I think I may finally be ready to have a place of my own without roommates. Thank you again to everyone who offered advice and encouragement. It means a lot to know there are people who understand and care, even if we have never met. I will share another update if anything significant changes. Update 2. It has been almost a month since my last update, and I want to share some new developments. I have been sticking to the boundaries I set with my family. We have exchanged a few phone calls and messages, but nothing very intense. So far, it has been manageable. Sometimes the conversations feel awkward, but they haven't been as painful as I expected. My parents have mostly respected my limits. They check in occasionally, but don't ask for more than I am willing to give. I can tell they are trying to rebuild trust, but it is clearly going to take time. My mother calls once a week, just like we agreed. At first, those conversations were uncomfortable, often filled with long pauses, but slowly they have become easier. We usually talk about simple topics, her work at the hospital, the weather, or my online classes. It's not much, but it's a start. My father has been sending me short emails from time to time. Usually he just checks in or shares something he thinks might interest me. Last week, he sent me an article about a new business opening in our hometown. It was a small gesture, but it reminded me of how he used to clip newspaper articles for me when I was younger. Gemma, however, has had a harder time with the distance I created between us. She has sent several long, emotional messages apologizing and asking for another chance to make things right. My replies have been short. I keep telling her that I need more time. It hasn't been easy, but I am staying firm on this decision. I know she is hurting, but right now I am not ready to deal with her emotions on top of my own. Another important development is that I have started therapy. I found a counselor who specializes in family trauma, and we have already had several sessions. Talking about everything from the past has been difficult, but I believe it is helping. My therapist is helping me work through my anger and trust issues while also teaching me how to set healthy boundaries. During our last session, we talked about how the ring incident was not just about the accusation itself. It was also connected to years of feeling like I never measured up to Gemma's achievements. That conversation helped me realize that there had been deeper issues in our family long before the ring disappeared. If real healing is going to happen, those older problems will also need to be addressed. One unexpected outcome of this entire experience is that I have grown closer to my friends, especially Ryan. They have been incredibly supportive through everything. Ryan even offered to come with me to any future meetings with my family, just to provide moral support. This whole situation has taught me. This experience has taught me that family is not defined only by blood. It is also about the people who stand by you when life becomes difficult. Work has been a helpful distraction during this time. I focused heavily on my career and recently received a small promotion. I am now responsible for inventory management during my shift, which comes with more responsibility and a slight increase in pay. It feels good to have something positive to concentrate on. Regarding my living situation, I decided to stay where I am for now. It isn't luxurious, but it belongs to me and represents the independence I worked hard to achieve. My parents offered to help me find a better apartment, but I declined. I feel that I need to accomplish this step on my own. At the same time, I have started seriously considering options to continue my education. A state university about an hour away offers evening classes, and I am thinking about applying to their business program. It would be a significant step, but I believe I am ready for the challenge. Overall, I am taking life one day at a time. Some days are more difficult than others. There are moments when I miss the easy connection my family once had. Then I remember how quickly everything changed, and I realize that I cannot rush the healing process. My therapist says that having mixed emotions about the situation is normal. She encourages me to be patient with myself and reminds me that I do not have to forgive anyone before I feel ready. We are also working on strategies for handling future family gatherings and holidays. I have to admit that those situations make me more nervous than I would like. For now, my main focus is recovery and continuing to build a life I can feel proud of, with or without my family. It isn't easy, but I remain hopeful about the future. I am learning that it is okay to put myself first, and that setting boundaries does not make me a bad person. Thank you again for your continued support. Your comments and messages have given me strength during this entire process. It helps to know that I am not alone in dealing with complicated family situations like this. Update 3. It has now been 6 months since my original post, so I thought it would be appropriate to share one final update. A lot has changed over the past few months. The biggest news is that I have decided to move to another city for a new job opportunity. It represents a major step forward in my career, and I am excited about the possibilities ahead. The position is with a logistics company. The work is similar to what I did at the warehouse, but on a much larger scale. This new role is in management, which is something I have been working toward for quite some time. The salary is significantly higher than what I was earning before, and the job also includes benefits such as health insurance and a retirement plan. Before making the decision, I had a long discussion with my therapist. We talked about how this move might affect both my healing process and my relationship with my family. In the end, we agreed that it could be a positive step. It would give me the chance to stand fully on my own and build an identity outside of the family conflict. I informed my parents about the move last week. They were surprised and a little disappointed, but they said they understood. My mother became emotional and admitted she had hoped we would have more time to rebuild our relationship before I moved away. My father remained calm, but I could see that he was also disappointed. They both expressed concern about me being alone in a new city, but I reassured them that I would be fine. Gemma took the news the hardest. After I told her, she unexpectedly came to my apartment and asked me not to leave. She said it felt like she was losing me all over again. It was a difficult conversation, but I stayed firm. I explained that this decision was something I needed to do for myself, and that our relationship was not yet in a place where her opinion could influence my choices. Our relationship has improved somewhat, but it is still far from perfect. Over the past few months, we have had a few family dinners together. At times, they were uncomfortable and awkward, but gradually, we have been learning how to be around each other again. Trust, however, remains a major challenge. There are still moments when I question their intentions. Sometimes I wonder whether they truly believe what they say now, or if they are simply trying to reduce their own guilt. Throughout this process, my therapist has been incredibly helpful. She has guided me in understanding my emotions and maintaining healthy boundaries. She often reminds me that forgiveness does not mean forgetting or pretending that the pain never happened. Instead, forgiveness is about letting go of anger so that I can find peace within myself. I have taken that advice seriously. While I know I will never forget what happened, I am working toward forgiving my family, not for their benefit, but for my own peace of mind. Carrying that much anger and resentment was exhausting, and I am ready to release it. As I prepare for this move, I have been reflecting on everything that has happened. 3 years ago, I believed my life was over. I felt like I had lost everything, including the people I cared about most. But now I can see how much I have grown because of that experience. I am stronger, more independent, and far more aware of my own value than I was before. I do not know exactly what the future holds for me and my family. We plan to stay in contact after I relocate. We agreed on weekly phone calls and visits during holidays. It is only a beginning, but perhaps with time and distance, we will be able to rebuild something new. For now, my attention is focused on the future. I am excited about my new job, the new city, and the opportunities waiting ahead. I have already started looking for apartments online and researching the area where I will be living. There is a mix of excitement and nervousness, but overall, I am looking forward to this next chapter of my life. No matter what happens with my family, I know I will be okay. I have proven to myself that I can handle whatever challenges life brings. Most importantly, I have learned the value of surrounding myself with people who truly support and believe in me, whether they are related to me or not. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and turn on the notification bell so you can stay updated with more real-life stories like this.